Good evening. I am Allison Penna, aka Bad Widow, and tonight's live stream is about navigating the who pays conundrum. It's very confusing figuring out who pays. So in the typical scenario, the man would pay and the woman would be paid for. And so when I was going to college, that was the assumption that that's what would happen. The assumption also when I was in college was that, okay, the man will pay and then the woman will reciprocate with some kind of intimacy. And that was really uncomfortable for me. So times have changed. And, you know, it's not as set in stone that the man always pays and the woman always is paid for. And what's happened with that is that it's made some things easier and some things harder. So how do you deal with who pays for especially the first date? It's really, really important that you choose a place and meeting place that's going to be comfortable for both of you. So for example, all kinds of things can happen on the first date. It can go really well and the guy can be really comfortable with paying, or they can both be really comfortable with splitting the check. As long as it's communicated and agreed upon, there's no issue. It's good to, if it's possible, talk about this before the date, because then that can change the kind of place that you choose so that it's within reach of both parties. Things can happen on a date. If the date's not going well, you might want to leave. You might not want to stay in a date that's a bad date, in a date that starts feeling bad. They might not want to stay. So you need to be able to pay for whatever you're doing. So it makes sense to choose something that is reasonable enough that you're not going to be resentful if that happens. And they're not going to be resentful if that happens. Okay, so you're going to choose a place that you're both comfortable with by agreement. Decide beforehand how much you want to spend. So for example, I have a very specific range of restaurant prices, for example, of a place that I would be willing to go to on a first date. I would not have been willing to go on a first date to a place that was more than $20 a person. That was it. That was what I could do. And very often it was a matter of my means were not great since Dave died. And so I would trend towards less expensive options. So if the other person was willing to pay for something, then we had more possibilities. It's a fine line between feeling resentful and feeling obligated. So it's nice to be taken out. It's nice to be treated. That's part of why we alternated dates when we were dating. So we each would choose a date that we were comfortable with, that we really liked. And it allowed us to create something new and something fun. It also allowed us to operate within the parameters of price that we were comfortable with. So how do you navigate the dating conundrum? 1, talk about it beforehand if you can. I had some awkward dates where at the end of the date, I said, are we splitting it or are you paying? What are we doing? And the other person was very uncomfortable because they had assumed that they would pay. And it was an awkward moment. You can pay for the tip. You can do something else. As long as it's agreed upon and communicated, it's all good. Choose places you're comfortable with. Choose a price point you're comfortable with. Choose activities over things that are really expensive. In the summer, for example, New York City is very cheap. There are lots and lots of things that you can do that don't cost a lot of money. Again, the point is to get to know the other person. And so the place you choose, the kinds of things you're doing should be designed so that you are comfortable enough to be wholly yourself, comfortable enough so that they can be wholly themselves. Because then you'll show who you are. And starting with authenticity from the start, that's really the way to go. That's it. I'm Allison Penna, aka Bad Widow, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.